guys. Gosh. Now we're done. Anyways, guys. So today we are going to the Ghosts and Gravestones tour. If you saw that really cool little short, guys.
I don't want more than
and you
4
liked
people
it.
in my house. 5.
There's a piece of lemon stuck in your throat. Okay, well, anyways, guys, so we got the little badge right here. Look, let me show you here. See, we got a badge. I got a brand new Bendy shirt. I got my Mario swag. It says game over. You guys should know that. You guys know mirrors. I can't unmirror, guys. Sorry. But anyways, game over. Game over. But anyways, guys. So we're going to go into this place, and we are going to do some stuff. We have Piranha Plant here with us right now, and Gorilla Dude is taking a break. Right now, while we go to this
Go down just a little, right.
Ghosts and Gravestones. So it's like a little tour. You go on a little thing. So you got scary stuff. So I brought one of my scary stuffed animals to describe. And that's about it. See you guys when we get to the stuff. Yeah. Play intro.
That was the night before.
Time to show you Adventures with Gorilla Dude. Instead of saying forever hold your peace, he said forever hold your peace. That's funny, guys.
Do you have to go to the bathroom?
Tonight. This is, for the most part, a trolley tour, which means you'll be seeing exactly where you're sitting. We'll pass some locations, I'll point them out, you'll take pictures
So
of
we're in
them,
this
and I'll tell you the
scary
story.
place, guys.
We will be making 2 stops tonight, however. Our first stop is at the beautiful Andrew Lowe house, a known haunted mansion here in Savannah. I personally
went
have
there.
several experiences inside the Andrew Lowe house, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about those a little bit later. One thing about the Andrew Lowe house, we leave.
This is an
And we want
hour and 20
everybody on
minutes
board to
tour,
say good night
guys, so
and goodbye as we walk out
if
the
you
door.
want access to the whole
This puts a
thing,
definitive
I will
end to
give
your
you
time in the home,
a separate thing
and it's
in the
best way to keep
description.
anything from falling
But
out of it.
if you guys
Please
want
remember
a
as we
short
leave the
video,
Andrew Lowe house.
I will be cutting
Good
out
night.
things for you guys.
And good.
Come on, let's go.
While we wait
I'm
for the
good.
rest of our group, the death tolls of both of those disasters was catastrophic. Basically, anywhere in downtown Savannah is built on top of a mass grave. So if you're staying anywhere downtown, you're likely literally sleeping on top of the dead. Do sleep well with that knowledge.
You're not gonna do it, Dad.
Bonjour. Why is it here you hear from the city?
You're telling that to billions of people.
Right this way, find anywhere on board. Bonjour. Welcome aboard, active, looking lively, not looking like they're among the dead, if you will. And so in order to do this, whenever you hear me say the word, boom, I want everybody on board the trolley to scream as loud as they possibly can. Let's see if we can drown these cars out, shall we? Boom!
The car looks stupid.
I've heard more lies in the graveyard, but we'll work on that over the course of the night.
No one can drown that out, and that's a fact.
You'll be fine, man. You're gonna be sick.
You see, my mother would say something about the size of particular body parts.
No, it's not annoying. It's awesome. No, not the car. The car in front of it. It's funny.
Both cars look stupid
They look cool.
and annoying. I don't need to hear what they're playing, even if it's something I like.
You just said that on YouTube, Dad.
I'll be damn.
Okay.
whole video about how annoying it is to have to hear your
My
music.
friend's sitting right here.
Okay. Well, my music's actually really good.
You're in the hot seat. The way that this chair is oriented, I'll be making the most direct eye contact with you straight up front. You two over here, you're not safe either.
It's so loud, its trunk is rattling just in this
Do you think he's able to
When it's
hear once he
improper
gets out of the car? Do you think it takes him a little bit?
speaker installation. And that's a nice Cadillac. We should have
We should just call Dad. We should just make a whole video called Dad's Statement. Car songs are annoying. We should make a whole video called Dad's Statement. Car songs are annoying.
Tonight. Anybody who does not believe in ghosts, haunts, spirits, and the like, we have quite a few skeptics on board. Well, I will go ahead and let you know. This tour is only about an hour and a half long. I will not be able to change your mind in that time. My hope is that you take a little bit of something from each of these stories and that you leave tonight with a more open mind towards the supernatural. There are 3 types of haunts we'll be talking about tonight. Our first type of haunt is called a residual.
Suspicious.
A residual haunt is the leftover energy of a person, place, or thing in a room. It's a sight, a sound, a smell that's played over and over and over again. Thankfully, residual haunts completely
I said this was going to be part of another episode, but this is its own episode because of how long it's going to be. Even putting it in parts is going to be a long time.
Intelligent haunts and
So just so you guys know, this is going to be a long
They
video.
have the free will they please, and unlike residual haunts, they can be harmful. And this brings me to our third type of haunt tonight. My personal least favorite, poltergeist. If you don't know what a poltergeist is, I have a movie recommendation. However, let me go ahead and explain. A poltergeist is leftover energy. Objects in the room will go flying around, electronics will go haywire, and they're generally just a giant nuisance. So I do hope we only talk about poltergeists tonight. We don't experience any form or setting. Excuse me for just one moment.
We're going to pause it for this small part.
My name is Monsieur LeBlanc, and I have the honor, nay, the privilege, of being your ghost. Enough about me, however, let me go ahead and introduce you all to the real star of the show. This here is Mr. Larry. And it's his job to make sure we get through the city tonight in a safe and timely manner. Your lives are literally in his hands, so it would do you all well to say, thank you, Mr. Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. Very well. Thank you, Mr. Larry.
Put in the comments, thank you, Mr. Larry. Yeah.
Before we're able to disembark, first and foremost, my friend sitting right up front, if you can hear me, go ahead and make some noise. My friends in the middle, if you can hear me, make some noise. My friends all the way in the back, if you can hear me, make some noise. Everybody at once. Do we have any Michaels on board tonight? Any Michaels on our trolley? We do have one Michael. Yeah. That will conclude our mic check. Well, the trolley is in motion. Remember, we're here to see ghosts. We are not here to become them. Second, please do keep your hands, your arms, your feet, your legs, your faces, anything you'd like to keep attached to inside the trolley at all times. This didn't work out too well for the last person who disobeyed. No meetings, no drinking, no tobacco products of any kind. Thank you. And I personally don't mind if you all talk amongst yourselves. Please do keep your side conversations to a whisper, as I don't want to be talking over anybody, and I will be removing tongues tonight if I have to. And finally, take lots of pictures. Just please do turn your flash off. As that flash could bounce off the mirror, blinding our driver and sending us straight into the river. We don't want that happening again, now do we? No. That being said, now that we're off like a severed head, if you'll do me a favor and look to your left, you'll see the most notorious serial killer in Savannah history. This here is Mr. Larry. I'm just kidding, he was actually acquitted. What I'm talking about is the river itself. That water may look calm and glassy on the surface, but don't let that fool you. Underneath is actually a very dangerous current. Not a year passes without some poor, unfortunate soul losing their life by plunging out.
Can't get a view of the guy.
Now these buildings that line River Street were for the most part cotton warehouses day in, day out. Hank would complain to anybody who would listen about his foreman and how he would like to rid himself of their commands. Well, one night in 1892, Hank's anger got the better of him. Using the dark of night, Hank crept up to the attic of the Tidewater Oil Company. Once there, he looked around to make sure nobody saw him. And he set one barrel of oil on fire. Then another, and another, till eventually the entire building was set ablaze. This fire would end up spreading across the entire east end of River Street. All the shop owners and the workers in the area. Nobody was injured or killed in the fire. I'm just kidding. That wouldn't make for a very good ghost story, would it? Hank actually became the only victim of his own rage that night. Perhaps that's why room 406 of the Old Harbor Inn, the original attic of the Tidewater Oil Company, is said to be the most haunted room today. Imagine waking up to your alarm clock that you didn't set, blaring you awake. The smell of burning oil and smoke fills your lungs. You rush to the door in a panic, trying to escape, but when you feel it, it's burning hot to the touch. When you finally muster up your courage to throw that door open, there's no sign of fire anywhere in the building. That's just Hank still trying to smoke out his former bosses. Now, this is normally the portion of the tour where I'd point something out, you'd all look at it, and then I'd tell you a story about it. However, the next time on our list isn't something you can see. It's actually directly below us. Below even the road we're driving on right now lie a series of tunnels that crisscross through Savannah. The most famous of these leads to the Pirate House. When it was built, the Pirate's House served as a tavern for privateers and sailors to belly up to the bar and exchange tall tales of glory on the high seas. Over a round or two, of course. However, the basement of the Pirate's House was used for more nefarious purposes. French and English privateers and sailors would often find themselves just a few men short. So, to remedy the situation, they would sneak to the bar upstairs, find the strongest looking men that they could, then drug their drinks and drag them through the tunnels below onto their ships waiting on the river. Local legend claims of a police officer who was at the Pirate's House to investigate these disappearances and, of course, have a drink or two himself. As fate would have it, that officer would awake the next morning in a new career path. On a ship, making its way to China. It would take that officer 2 full years before he would make his way back to our city. Same night that young officer was met with that fate, another young man was met with the same fate in this building here on the left. Right into the tunnels, however, a police raid came through as they were looking for the man they had inside. Not wanting to be caught dragging a man through the tunnels during a police raid, the crew of the ship had no choice but to seal the man up into the wall. The plan was to go back the next morning and retrieve the man. However, the next morning came, that crew set sail. That man was nowhere on board. Instead of finding himself a cask of Amontillado, the man found demise. Unfortunately, that young man's name has been lost to time. However, Mr. Larry and I have taken to calling the man Wally. A few years back,
he is the character.
Savannah. For those of you who don't know, the Warrens are very well known in the paranormal community, being some of the first to investigate the Amityville horror case. They also inspired movies such as Annabelle and The Conjuring. One of the places the Warrens were most interested in during their stay in Savannah was the Pirate's House. Yes. They hired a local medium to stay the night with him to aid in their investigation. The night of the investigation came, and that medium found himself running just a little bit late. So he called a buddy of his to race him over to the Pirate's House as fast as he could drive. When they arrived, that medium looked out and saw 3 people walking around the stairs. He thought for sure that they must have started off without him. So he shot from the car like a dart, raced to the front door of the Pirate's House, grabs the handle, throws it open, and finds Edelrain Warren still waiting downstairs. As it turns out, the manager hadn't shown up to unlock the top floor of the Pirate's House. So that naturally begs the question, who was looking down at the streets of Savannah below that night? I do have to say you 3 up front look particularly suspicious to me. There are several versions of the stories that you'll hear tonight that have been passed down through the years. Had a few details changed here and there, much like a bad game of telephone. When it comes to Anna Powell in the 1790, this is the version of this story that we know to be the most true. Now, the 1790 was built as an inn. Does anybody on board have any guesses as to what year the 1790 was built?
1820.
1820! Very good! Who said that?
My
You're
dad.
absolutely correct.
He's a history dude.
I've never actually had anybody guess that correctly. Somebody's
That's because my dad loves history.
1820 was actually a disastrous year for the inn, so they renamed the inn the 1790. 1790 has one very famous resident. Her name is Anna Powers, and she is still there today.
You see?
1790 is going to the Mint Green building coming up just ahead on the left as we round this corner.
History.
Anna's room is the top floor, 5 windows in from the left. So as we pass by, count the windows with me, get your cameras out, we will catch a glimpse of Anna tonight. Once again, this mint green building,
1, 2,
top
5,
floor,
6.
5 windows in. There's going to be one window,
1,
2,
2, 3,
3,
4, 5,
4,
6, 7,
and
8, 9.
there she is. Do you see her? There's Anna. Isn't she a doll? No, literally she is. That's just an effigy placed there to mark where room 204 is. It was there in room 204, and was sitting with her new husband. She found out that he had been stepping out on her. So she decided to out on him, right through the open window. Anna doesn't exactly take kindly to having female guests staying in her room. Ladies in room 204 will often have their makeup and their jewelry go missing, and they'll even be pushed out of their beds as they sleep. The men in the room, however, have little to complain about. Fellows in room 204 will often wake up to a loving hand placed upon their brow. They'll turn to thank their partner for the gesture, just to see Anna screaming at them as she runs towards the window. Of course, Anna's not the only spirit to haunt 1790, and she's sweet in comparison to the ghost that haunts the kitchen. Fortunately, we no longer know her name. It has been lost to time. However, we do know that she was once a cook for the family that owned the inn. We also know that she practiced voodoo. There were many jangling metal bracelets. The spirit of the voodoo cook is an angry one, and much like Anna, she also doesn't care for women, particularly blondes. Blonde servers working in the restaurant will often have the silverware that they've just rolled go sliding off the tables. Written orders will go missing, and they'll even be pushed around the kitchen area. She does have her sad moments too, however. Late one night, a maintenance worker was locking up when he heard the sounds of sobbing coming from the kitchen. He did as any brave man would do when he hears crying coming from a building he knows he's alone in. He arms himself. Some are just unwanted house guests themselves. This is the case for the yellow brick building that is just behind me. That over there is 210 East State Street. It's here where an Englishman and a Savannah woman once shared an apartment. Strangely enough, this couple did not like tea. Can you imagine that? An English Southern woman not liking tea? The shock, the horror, the humana. Strangely enough, the couple would awake some mornings to find a full teacup sitting on the room table. They knew they didn't place it there, so they thought somebody was playing a trick on it. After asking everyone they knew and getting a few too many questioning glances, the couple decided to track down the previous owner of the apartment, a man named Rodney. I just loved that apartment, Rodney told him, but I just had to leave because my mother wouldn't. You see, one morning, Rodney's mother was sitting at her dining room table, having her morning cup of Earl Grey she was off to do. But the tingling in her arm wasn't enough warning. Rodney's mother died, face first into her own cup of tea. It's pretty frightening, the idea of having a spirit residing in your home. However, even more frightening than that is the idea of somebody who's not paying rent. And so, in the true English gentility and Southern hospitality, don't worry, that's the last tea pun of the night. Again, the couple decided to write Rodney's mother a letter. It went something like this. Dear Rodney's mother, Rodney doesn't live here anymore, but if you'd like to visit him, here's his current address. And that worked. The couple never heard from Rodney's mother again. Never again would a full teacup grace their dining room table. I just wish it were so easy to get rid of mine. Just up ahead on the left is one of my favorite locations on the tour. That over there is Colonial Park Cemetery, Savannah's oldest existing cemetery. Burials began in 1750 and ended nearly 100 years later with over 10,000 Savannahans buried inside. The city made the executive decision to open Laurel Grove Cemetery in 1853 on the outskirts of town, when new burials over in Colonial Park were bringing up the remains of the previous owners of that plot of land. Now I know what you're all asking yourself. How do 10,000 people fit inside a cemetery? It's only about 2 blocks in either direction. Easy answer is, they don't. This road that we're driving on right now is to allow for more carriages to pass on either side. And so they moved the gates of the cemetery from that side of the road to that side of the road, without moving the body. That's right, we are literally driving over the dead right now. Anywhere that you see a dip or a divot in the sidewalk, there's almost certainly somebody buried beneath it. I did mention that we are a city built upon our dead, did I not?
Oh, I don't know why I didn't do that
We'll be reaching our first stop of the evening, the beautiful Andrew Lowe house. built in 1849 by New York architect John Norris for the wealthy family of Andrew Lowe. Andrew was a cotton factor whose son would go on to marry Juliet Gordon Lowe, founder of the Girl Scouts. When Juliet passed in 1927, her home, as well as all of her possessions, were sold to the National Society of the Colonial Dames of America in the state of Georgia by the trustees of her estate. That's just much of a mouthful to say if you think it is. Since the 1950s, the home has operated as a museum.
Did you guys hear that?
We here at Ghosts and Gravestones have the exclusive opportunity to tour the home during the evening hours. That being said, this is still a museum and there are some rules.
Let me take a picture of it.
First and foremost, we'll be pulling up to the front of the home, so please do remain seated until the trolley comes to a full and complete stop, and for Mr. Larry here to illuminate the interior. I will first to assist
We're
anybody
gonna
who
wait,
needs any
pause,
help.
and we're gonna pause while this stuff happens. Okay guys, we are about to enter the first destination, which is the house's gay. About to enter. We're on a plant. Here. I'm gonna take a few pictures, like it said to, because I want to capture the spirit. And we're gonna be walking in right now. We'll see you guys when we get in there. This graveyard first though. Small, but still a graveyard nonetheless. There's the graveyard, guys. We'll see you guys when we get in the place now.
Told to work in his uncle's cotton business. Over the years, Andrew would end up taking over the family business and become a very well-to-do man in his own right. Sadly, well-to-do Andrew did not find much happiness here in the home. Before construction was completed, he would lose his first wife, Sarah Cecil Hunter, as well as their 4-year-old son. He did remarry 5 years later. However, he would also lose his second wife, Miss Mary Copper Stiles, following the birth of Andrew's 6th child. Distraught and heartbroken, Andrew understandably did not spend much time here in the home, instead opting to take long trips over to England. While he was away, the upkeep of the home was entrusted to one man in particular. That man's name was Tom Millage. Tom was born a slave, but Andrew considered him his most trusted friend. Throughout their years together, no man garnered more respect from Andrew than Tom himself. In his will, Andrew even left Tom the sum of $300 per year for as long as he should live. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much now, but adjusted for inflation, that's about $8,000 every single year. Tragically, both Tom and Andrew would pass away just months apart from each other in 1886, so Tom would never see a dime of that money. It was, however, arranged that that money would instead go to Mosiana, who continued to collect that inheritance for the rest of her life.
Wow.
Before he passed, Andrew even had a tombstone commissioned to grace Tom's gravesite at Laurel Grove Cemetery South. The inscription on that headstone reads, "In affectionate memory of Thomas A. Millage, for many years a trusted friend and servant of Andrew Lowe of Savannah." It's pretty obvious that Tom was a well-honored and respected member of the Andrew Lowe staff. He even spent more time in the home than anyone, including Andrew and his family. It's for that reason that we attribute much of the paranormal activity inside the home to Tom himself. People have heard large booming footsteps rattling the halls. Doorknobs will jiggle and doors will even swing open without anybody standing on the other side. A lot of people believe that may just be Tom taking care of the home from beyond the grave. But of course, Tom might not be the only one in the home tonight.
Good evening, my nocturnal souls. Hello. Welcome to the Andrew Lowe house. How are you doing tonight? Excellent. My name is Countess Knoxford, and I am the head caretaker here at the house. Myself, your guide, will be spending.
I can't actually see that.
All right. Excellent. So this group, you are mine. This group will be going with your guide. Are you ready?
Yes.
Follow me, my dear.
Can I have this group back, Countess Nocturne?
Which side?
Top half, bottom half. It really doesn't matter which half I get
The
now.
arguments are ready.
Very well. My friend's on this side. Are you ready to go inside? Exactly. Right.
Oh, we're going up these stairs, guys. But so I can pay attention, I'm putting it towards my face. So I can pay attention to these steps. They see it. We're in the mansion now. kind of a mansion, yeah.
You watch your step.
Everybody up? Alrighty then. So, as I was saying, a couple things. Welcome to the second floor of the Andrew Lowe house. Now, the Andrew Lowe house, if you notice, there are actually 5 bedrooms and 1 bath. The Lowes had, well, 4 daughters. You can only imagine, right? But each one of these rooms was named after the person or the persons, well, that spent the most amount of time in the room or the most notable time in the room. The room directly to the left of my hand here, and then to the right of the bathroom, that was the Lowe bedroom. It was named after Mary Lowe and Julia Gordon Lowe. Now, interestingly enough, throughout history, women have always been drawn to that room. They've also been drawn to die in that room. Mary Lowe died in that room in 1863 from complications of childbirth. Julia Gordon Lowe died in that room in 1927, sitting in the chair directly to the right of the bed, overlooking Lafayette Square. Perhaps for those, Savannah had what was a tropical storm that bordered on a hurricane come through. After the storm, 2 of the society ladies, they came by to check on the status of the house. They were checking for the sandbags, taking the shutters down, and when they entered the house, though, they heard the sounds of muffled crying. They couldn't quite figure out where they were coming from. They went through the house, each room, but when they came up the staircase here, the crying got louder and louder and louder, drawing them right to that room. When they looked in their recent house, they saw not a soul. But now the crying was so loud, it was bordering on sobbing. Well, these 2 ladies, they were no nonsense. They didn't believe in ghosts. They didn't want to hear about them. But that day, they were believers. They got really scared. They said they were feeling super depressed, and they ran out the building. About 2 weeks later, they started comparing notes on the date that they were actually up here checking on the house. And what they came up with was June 17th, the anniversary of Mary Lowe's death. Yes. So, now I'll draw your attention to the room directly behind you ladies here with the blue and white wallpaper. That was the Eliza Stiles room. Eliza Stiles was Mary Lowe's mother. Shortly after she died in that room a few feet away, Eliza moved into the house to care for her grandchildren. Think about how handy this was. Right across from the creepy doll nursery. Everybody's seen that, right? With all due respect. All due respect, folks. Yes. Now she moved in, but we do not believe that it is her spirit that resides in there. We believe the spirit to be of Henry William Stiles, who was her husband. See, he had contracted a terminal illness while out on the battlefield fighting in the Civil War. Shortly after, he moved into the home to recuperate as long as he could with his wife by his side. Sadly, he died in 1865 inside of that room of pneumonia. Now, for years, the house employed a housekeeper. She would start at the very bottom, working her way up. This woman was, well, shall we say, not afraid of ghosts and spirits. She kind of liked them. Well, she would come up here and she would glance in, and she got into the habit of actually seeing a man rocking in that rocking chair. She started calling him Mr. Lowe, but we do not believe that was Mr. Lowe. The man she described was very tall, thin, sickly, emaciated. It was almost as if there was someone who was suffering from a long-term illness. When she was showed pictures by this grand society of possible people it might be, she picked out Henry William Stiles. So we believe that he is spending his final days in that room, rocking over and over and over again. Yes. Now, has everyone checked out our creepy doll room? Anybody know which 3 are rumored to be the most haunted? Video of them. They run like this, as if they didn't want their pictures taken. Yes. So do take your final pictures. Follow me on down to the first floor. Like I said, they have really mixed a bunch of stuff.
Want to put a hashtag on that?
Yes. Not in Greek.
Bella, you're the one who's scared of dolls, so shut up. Yes, you are. If a doll like that was sitting right next to you, dead eyes, what would you do? Scare me.
It's known as the parlor. There's actually the double parlor. Separated by these here pocket doors right in the middle. Now to the left was the formal parlor.
Stop it, Dad.
Which you all are in here with the couches. To the right, this was the family parlor. You all see that portrait up there? That is of Mary Cowper Stiles, Andrew Lowe's second wife. And that portrait above the mantel, that is of the man himself, Andrew Lowe. Taken as Lowe, painted at about a tender young age of 24. Anyone guess what that might be? Hint, it's on this side. Yes. That fantastic piano forte, right there in the corner. Well, that piano forte was built to sound like a grandbaby piano, but without taking up the space. Here's the thing. Even though it is a beautiful instrument, it is highly inconvenient. Because you see, due to the gravitational pull on those strings, back in the day, that instrument had to be tuned every 2 to 3 hours. Now, no one's got time for that, right? No one's got time for that. So in the 1950s, when this home opened as a museum, well, they cut the cords to preserve the antique so that we can keep wearing it. But my dear, is not stuck. So we've had many people walk in right from the outside, complimenting the staff on the beautiful piano music that they'll hear wafting throughout these rooms. And I will tell you, many of you here tonight, this will probably turn into a self-guided tour. So this is Andrew. This study, or the library, as it was known. Andrew Lowe would have spent the bulk of his time when he was in Savannah inside of this room, working at that desk. You see, he avoided the parlor. He wanted very little to do with that side of the house because of all the sad and bad memories that it brought back, having lost 2 wives and a son. So he didn't want to go over there at all. He primarily stuck on this side of the house. And as we move through this area, as you follow me, I'll explain. But as you move to the
I'm going to pause it as we go through this, guys.
When all of a sudden he said he heard the sounds of footsteps, and then of women speaking amongst themselves. Get everybody in? And he thought, wow, they're really early. So he calls out, hello, greetings. Nothing. He's looking around. He's still hearing the voices. He's hearing the footsteps. But now they're going from room to room to room to room, up and down stairs. So he's trying to track them. Finally gets upstairs. He tracks those voices all the way to the low bedroom where they disappeared. He said, you got to be kidding me. He runs downstairs. He asks a staff member, did anybody leave? She's like, no, nobody left the house at all. In fact, they checked, the side gates were still padlocked. A couple hours later, when those society ladies did arrive, they told them the story. But those ladies insisted they were nowhere near Savannah when those voices were heard walking and talking throughout the house. So that begs the burning question, who or what may have been in the house? Now in this room, as you can lavishly decorated, right? It's the most lavishly decorated room in the house. This is where we get our residual activity in the house.
A lot of this is going to be cut out.
Thing. After dinner, the women would go over to the parlor. They would have their tea and cakes. The men would sit in here, have something stronger like cognac or whiskey or brandy, and well, they would smoke cigars. Everybody knows that earth song, right? We've had lots and lots and lots of guests, probably hundreds of them over the years. Say that they do smell that earthly aroma of the cigar
Don't be
smoke. It's as if
surprised.
it lingers in the air. So, in just a moment, we'll be gathering everybody out in the courtyard. If you have any questions about the room, please do ask. I'll answer them to the best of my ability.
On the rise with the latest technology of the time, electricity. Savannah citizens would marvel at the home, not only exterior, but also interior. As the Hamiltons were known to invite the other socialites of their home to several parties. One partygoers, as well as the home safe during the quiet midnight hours. Samuel Hamilton hired an off-duty police sentry to watch over the home. It was from the roof of the home that we'd perch and watch the guests enter and exit, as well as smoke his nightly cigars. Tragically, this plan would come to an abrupt end when the body of that police sentry was found, shot off his perch, lying in a pool of his own blood out front of the steps of the home. As you can imagine, there were no parties in the Hamilton residence for some time to come. However, the family did continue to live in the home, and over the years, they did as rich people do and got over the murder. Parties would once again be thrown in the home. But by now, those two little babies had grown into very active and rambunctious children who wanted to be included in their father's parties. Mr. Hamilton was adamantly against this, however. No children at my parties. So, to appease them, he bought them what any child of the time would have wanted. A billiards table. As you can imagine, the children still weren't pleased with this arrangement. And so, anytime there was a party going on inside the home, they would take turns accidentally rolling the billiards balls down the stairs in order to retrieve them, and of course to take a glimpse into the parlor room below. Although they weren't quite obvious in what they were trying to do, their parents, as well as the other partygoers, found their little games adorable, the absolute highlight of their parties, and decided to let it slide. Over the years, the home did sell to become a bed and breakfast. However, some lingering spirits do still remain. One former innkeeper reports of hearing the sound of children giggling, as well as pool balls breaking up the stairs. Anytime there's a party going on inside the home, you are certain to hear the distinct sound of billiards balls rolling down the steps one by one. It seems the Hamilton children still want to be included in their father's parties. Of course, the Hamilton children aren't the only spirits on leave. Late one night, that same innkeeper was walking back to her car. She heard the rustling of leaves, very loud and distinct. Who goes there? Behind her. She spun around fast, didn't believe what she saw was the figure of a tall man, cloaked in shadow, illuminated by only the dim orange glow of a cigar. She was terrified. Shut her eyes as tight as she could, looked away. When she looked back, that man had vanished. Perhaps that same police sentry was still trying to watch over the home. Now I know that last story was a little bit darker, with ghost children and a murdered police officer. Well, I'm sure we all want to talk about something a little more fun and a little more lighthearted, don't we? Well, good, because this next story is about a dead baby in public execution. In 1733, a group of Irish indentured servants arrived here on the shores of Savannah. Among them were Alice Riley and her companion, Richard White. Alice and Richard were sent to Hutchinson Island to work off their debts under a man named William Wise. William Wise was a complete monster. Single morning, Richard was forced to comb through the man's matted and tangled hair, even having to pick bits of food out of the man's
and because of
beard.
how long the story is.
Alice had the even more unfortunate job of bathing every inch of the disgusting man. Afterwards, he would make his unwanted advances. Of course, the couple soon tired of their unkindly master and decided to take matters into their own hands. One morning, as William was leaning his head back to have his hair combed through by Richard, Richard instead reached down, strangled the man with his own neckerchief. Afterwards, Alice grabbed the man's head and pushed it into the wash water below, essentially drowning the man in his own filth. Of course, the couple fled for their lives. However, they were caught, despite the pleading of their innocence and honestly how justified their motives were. Murder is still murder. Richard would swing from the gallows for 3 full days before he would finally succumb to the hangman's noose. Alice's fate did not come so quickly. As she was being marched up those gallows steps, among her pleas of innocence, she cries out, "I am with child!" And so the city decides to stay her sentence until 6 weeks after her son was born. That baby was ripped from her arms, kicking and screaming. She was once again marched up those long-awaited gallows steps, where here, right square, Alice Riley becomes the first woman in Georgia history to be executed. Alice, of course, refuses to admit that she is long dead. Many people, particularly women, often report of seeing a frantic woman, clothed only in rags, starting in and out of the right square, crying out to anyone who will listen, "Where is my baby? Have you seen my baby?" She's seen so frequently that when the police get called to a frantic woman in right square, they send the rookies out to investigate. They know it'll get them out of the way for an hour or two, but the spirit of Alice will be nowhere to be found. Tragically, 2 weeks after her baby was ripped from her arms, it would contract pneumonia, where it would sadly pass away. So with Alice still looking for her baby, we can confirm that they haven't been reunited even in the afterlife. And now that I've thoroughly depressed you all, let's talk about something truly a little more fun, shall we? This next story is about a cursed will and an unfortunate nickname. It's a beautiful home that we'll be approaching soon with the statues out front of the Telfair Academy of Arts and Sciences. The home's final owner was Mary Telfair, who earned herself the fortunate nickname, the Lady of Stimulation. When Mary passed in her will, she had quite a few strict rules that absolutely must be followed. First and foremost, her home was to be donated as a house museum. There was to be no drinking, no smoking, and no festivities of any kind inside the home. Doesn't she sound fun?
Yes.
Second is the true image of vanity. Her portrait was never to be moved from the dining room. And most strangely, in my opinion at least, female actors were never allowed on the premises. Of course, we haven't always obeyed these rules. And the halls of this home with the statues here on the left-hand side are said to be haunted by strange occurrences anytime any of the tenants of Mary's will go unheeded. For example, when the home first opened as a museum, as we like to do here in Savannah, we threw a party to celebrate. The party was quickly broken up, however, when the windows and the shutters in the home began to rattle and shake. Doors would slam open and shut. And so in order to escape Mary's wrath, they moved the party from the home there out into Telfair Square. Even that wasn't good enough to satisfy Mary. Sudden thunderstorms as well as hail the size of golf balls sent the partygoers scattering. Today all functions are held in newer buildings. Of course, Mary's not just serious about no party. She's serious about every single one of the rules of her will. In 1981, the home was undergoing some restoration, and some workers decided that they needed to repaint the dining room. In order to do so and avoid damage to the portrait, they decided to move the portrait from the dining room through the home into the parlor room. As they were doing so, however, a portion of the rotunda ceiling above came crashing to the floor below, missing them by just feet. Her will was clear: do not move my portrait. Most strangely, these occurrences, however, involved a young female actress. This actress was hired in the early 2000s to portray none other than Mary Telfair herself. She dressed in costume for the attendees of the event, and after a very successful performance, that actress returned home and went to bed, where she slept soundly until about 2 or 3 in the morning then, when she was awoken by the beady eyes of none other than Mary Telfair herself, standing over her, telling her just how disappointed she was in the night's performance. Even the dead are critics. Mary also reminded that actress to read my will. Boom! In 1779, Savannah was the site of the second bloodiest battle of the Revolutionary War, the Siege of Savannah. French and American troops attempted to oust the British loyalists entrenched in the old Spring Hill Redoubt near here on the west end of Savannah. Tragically, the superior British army would mow them down, leaving over 1,200 French and Americans dead or wounded. The battle would only last for 55 minutes. And as per tradition, the dead or dying were buried precisely where they fell. Nearly 60 years later, in 1837, the Central Georgia Railroad was constructing a new station on the old Spring Hill Redoubt. As they were doing so, workers uncovered many relics such as shot and shell but also something just a bit more morbid. Thigh bones and skulls so greatly decomposed that they crumbled to the touch. On many of those skulls were even found tufts of bright red, blood-stained hair. One of the skulls even had the hair on the inside of the cranium, suggesting that during the siege of Savannah, that poor soul was bludgeoned to death with the butt of a musket, driving its skull inward. These discoveries, of course, in no way impeded progress here in Savannah. Buildings were erected all along the battlefield, covering up any indication that the bloodiest hour of the Revolutionary War happened here. Do you remember that cannonballs once flew freely through the air? Of course, that doesn't stop people from often seeing the figures of men in Revolutionary-era garb walking the streets of Savannah. I've been asked if we have any reenactors here in Savannah, to which the answer is we do not. So if you see anybody walking around downtown Savannah wearing Revolutionary-era garb that's not me, you are likely seeing the figures of those fallen soldiers from the siege. In just a few moments, we'll be making our way back down to River Street, and our path will once again become steep and rough, so please do hang on to any loose belongings. Anything that goes flying through this windshield here, I'm not going out of my way to catch. We are approaching our second stop of the evening, the Perkins and Sons ship Chandler. Imagine, back in the 1700s and 1800s, when the shipping industry was the lifeblood of our city. Chandler, such as the one we're about to enter, lined the riverfront and served as general stores of sorts for the sailors working in the port. They would sell them items such as twine, turpentine, ropes, and resin, and the Perkins and Sons is a fine example of a once prominent profession, although she has seen her better days. Today, our chandlery stands as more of a warehouse and a monument to a time gone past. As we enter the chandlery, you'll notice the remains of many nautical needs have been dredged up from shipwrecks in the mid-Atlantic, all with the exception of one item. To the left as we enter the Perkins and Sons, you'll notice a Victorian cast iron coffin that was dredged up from the Mississippi River. You'll notice about this coffin, among other things, it's a bit on the short side, just under 5 feet tall.
I don't see it.
4 foot 6 inches to be exact. Now I know what you're all thinking, and no, this was not a coffin intended for children. This was a one-size-fits-all coffin. How that would work is, let's say, for example, Untitled Chapter were to tragically kick the bucket. I stand about 6 foot 3 inches tall, and so they would begin at my ankles, take a hacksaw, and hacking away until I fit the coffin. And if you're a broad-shouldered individual such as myself or my friend in the brown coat, you could kiss your arms as well as a few of your ribs. Goodbye. Still wonder why the only view through the coffin was of the face. You did not want to see what's going on below. That being said, we'll be pulling up to the front of the chandlery here in just a moment. Many of the same rules expressed in the Lowe house do still apply. Once again, please do remain seated until the trolley comes to a full and complete stop, and for Mr. Larry here to eliminate the security. I will once again step off first to ensure that our path into the chandlery is clear.
People. It was a rhetorical question. People ain't supposed to be back here in my warehouse, so didn't you see my signs out there? Private, keep out and stay out. Well, you're already sitting down, I guess you may as well stay. Besides, look around at this bunch, huh? What a pitiful looking lot you are. Yes, pitiful, that's right. You look like you've never worked one single day in your entire life. Yeah, not like the man in that picture on the wall over there. That is Henry Willing. And believe me, not a one of you in here would want to be in his shoes. I'll tell you why. Because he's been dead for about 140 years. Yeah, longer than I've been dead. Henry Willick was a great shipbuilder here on the Savannah River, but he had a lot of tragedies in his life. Ladies, he was married 3 times. Yeah, you know what happened to his wives, huh? They all died. Good answer. First wife, visiting him at the docks, tripped over a loose line, fell in that river and drowned and was swept away and never seen again. Second wife, she died from the devil's disease, yellow fever. And his third wife, she just up and died one day for no reason at all. After the war between the states, Henry's 2 sons returned home. He thought certainly that he would pass his shipbuilding legacy on to them. The early morning hours of May 1866, his son Alexander made his way to work down by the river. where he came upon some men trying to load heavy cargo on a ship. He wrestled with it, but he wouldn't move. He decided then to come back down. So he slowly made his way down. His father Henry stood right on the dock, looking up at his son. And just as he thought that boy made it to safety, the load shifted again. Oh yeah, I saw you there.
Didn't get me. Didn't get me.
I said go, and you beat said no, we ain't.
Get all these guys.
To the dock below, pressing and cracking his
You guys
skull.
weren't scared, right?
Poor boy lay on his deathbed for nearly 4 hours. He drifted off into eternity. Now, when Spaniards hear those footsteps, late at night on the cobblestones and in these old warehouses down here, and they know to step aside because they know it's Henry. Henry Willing headed off to his shipyard in the middle of the night, trying to keep the nightmares from all those Hey! You bunch of rumheads, get on from here, move along. I took what? My mother was a saint. Don't you ever say that again.
Stop it, Dad. Stop it.
That is the sound out there of revolution, and that's the sound of the Sons of Liberty.
Yes, you did.
You see, patriots were so angered over taxation without representation, they formed the Sons of Liberty.
I see that.
Broke down
Stop
in
it.
the streets and squares, then up and down the riverfront. Patriots were so angered, they tarred and feathered loyalists. They burned King George in effigy. That left the royal governor then no choice but close the fort down, leaving the sailors nothing to do but roam the streets all day and drink rum, which you could probably use a shot up and calm down right now. You do over there. After a long day of rum drinking, one of those fools had a crazy idea come in his head. They would protest. He went and dragged a rickety old cart over from somewhere, whilst another managed to produce a mask intended for the head. Everyone, if you will, please say hello to my friend George.
George.
Thank you kindly. Then they built a gallows on that back to three-legged stool. With the promise of fine women and song, they coaxed him a 12-year-old cabin boy right up on that stool on the cart, put a hangman's noose around his neck and shoved that mask over his noggin and paraded him all up and down River Street to the delight of the sailors cheering him on. By now, the world has worked its magic and they needed more. They went up the bluff to back to their tavern. They left the poor boy outside struggling to get the mask off of his sweat stool. Slowly, just dragging it. Ah! I got that done.
Didn't get me.
And because of the shenanigans of those Sons of Liberty out there. Dozens from the tavern passed right by the boy in the middle of the stop him and help him.
Thanks for keeping it PG.
Most of the American Revolution is still haunt this city. Some say those sailors are doomed to relive that tragic night. Others say the echo of sea shanties up on Baptist Walk.
I know when it's you.
But in the afterlife, a special place is reserved for those salty sailors. And that old devil, he ain't serving no rum, not one. Now, I have work to do. I ain't got time to be babysitting you people. Besides, I don't really like people. But you're already sitting down, as I said. I guess you may as well stay and watch me work. You might see what they want. Whoa, you all hear that thunder and see that lightning, huh? Good, because if you don't hear that thunder, you're deafer than I am, okay? That means there's a storm coming up.
It's so dark.
At least from the storm. I know, what do you folks say? We just ride that storm out with one more story, shall we?
Yeah.
Good, because you were going to hear one. Now, pay attention. What I'm about to tell you people could save your life. As a matter of fact, if it weren't recorded by our own federal government, I'd say it wasn't true. Oh, no, you can trust the government, don't we? Now let me ask you, who in here has ever slept? No, the sleep of the dead. That's right, you know the feeling on a night like this. Your body feels heavy, you can't move a muscle, but somehow you feel strangely calm. Yet in the morning, you feel as if all the life's been drained from you. If you felt like this, you have been ridden by a hag. And the hag is a witch. who sustains her life by draining the life from you. Some say she rides your back, others say she sits on your chest. But believe me, it don't make no difference. The results are the same either way. The local Egypt god, they have a special name for this kind of hag. They call it a boo hag. They even say the boo hags can change shapes. They say they can take on the shape of a cat or the mist coming down. But there was a local man here. His name was Clay. He had worked that riverfront every day back during the Great Depression, but his work suffered from lack of sleep, and his wife, she had sleepless nights of her own because she knew he was hag-ridden, and she told him so. But to make matters worse, she told him,
I know the witch's name. Her name is Melinda Edmund.
Clay looked at her and shook his head and said, "Oh no, I don't believe in superstition." Until one morning when he went down to collect his team of horses, and it was there the stable master told him, "I got here this morning, all them mules and horses in there had night sweats, and they had knots and tangles all in their manes, I'm telling you." Clay heard that, and he drove right into the track because he knew the knots and tangles were called hag stirrups. And it meant there was indeed a hag witch in Savannah. So with this in his mind, he made his way on over to Kansas City, east of the city proper. Down there, he went to meet up with a conjure man that claimed he was able to commune with the spirits because he'd been born with a veil over his face. He gave Clay some strange advice. He said, "To keep that witch away, you lay a broom across your door. You tie a silver nickel around your wife's ankle and sleep with the Holy Bible under your pillow." Clay ignored all of those, but the last one. He did not want to keep the witch away. Oh no, he wanted to catch her. He couldn't sleep with an axe handle. He and his wife were in bed on a night when it was storming like now. He heard something stirring around in his room, jumped out of bed with that axe handle. He looked in the shadows and saw a cat creeping around in the darkness. He grabbed that axe handle tight. He got closer, finally swung. "Hey, no, come here, cat!" He chased the cat back. "Get out from there! Come here! Hey, where'd you go? Come out of there!" Ran around the gap, went back and forth, ran and jumped out the window. Clay ran for the door, out into the night, into a driving rain. He looked for paw prints, but all he could find was footprints in the earth. He moved the bushes and there was the witch, Melinda Edmund. She was wearing nothing more than the good Lord brought her into this world with. That's right, y'all. She was naked. Woo! Believe me, a naked boo hag is ugly. Yeah, I know. Take my second ex-wife with me. She's holding her sides and screaming and carrying on. "Don't you hit me no more! Don't you hurt me! I'll go away and leave you alone!" Good. Clay, in a rare moment of chivalry, allowed Melinda to live, and she was true to her word. She left town forever. And after that, the horses stopped having night sweats, and most of us began to sleep well again. Yeah. I hate happy endings, don't you? Ruins the story. Now, I have work to do and have no idea at all how this many people just wandered in here. But I'm sure you can wander your way out again. Yeah, because there are some of you here, some of you here are really beginning to look just a little...
Oh, man.
What's wrong, everyone? You all look as though you've seen a ghost. Why are the seats wet, ma'am? I so wanted to tell you about the Chandler